So speaking of multiple belongings, this leads me to a second question, and that is, how does our belonging to Jesus Christ, how ought that to shape our other senses of belonging?
Hmm. That's a really good question, Easton. It's something that I've been reflecting upon for the last seven or so years as I've been teaching Asian American theology and reflecting upon my own ethnic and cultural and racial identity with my primary identity in Christ. And I think it's been part of my own personal faith journey to realize that my being a follower of Jesus Christ, in order to do that more fully, more deeply, has required me to understand myself better and my family, as well as how society understands my being a second generation Chinese American. As someone who is Reformed and Presbyterian, I think about I've read Calvin's Institutes, and the opening sentence really is relevant here. Calvin talks about wisdom as being constituted by a double knowledge, a knowledge of self and a knowledge of God. And I think earlier in my faith formation, I really focused on the knowledge of God piece. But I found that I could not escape, if I really wanted to grow deeply in my Christian discipleship, I needed to understand myself, not just individualistically, but situated within my family intergenerational structure, understanding my parents and how they came to faith and their struggles as immigrants, first generation immigrants in the US, and the the pains and the wounds, as well as the joys of that migration pathway from being born in China, going through Taiwan, etc. And with our conference, we not only have East Asian Christians represented, but we have scholars who belong to Indian American communities, Filipino American faith communities, as well as Burmese faith communities in the US. And so, along with Korean and Chinese. So we've really tried to um, bring a diverse conversation with different Asian ethnic groups into the conference so that they would give us kind of particularity to the different kinds of belongings, especially Asian ethnic belongings that the conference is trying to encourage. How about you, Easton? How does our belonging to Jesus shape our other belongings?
I think what you've spoken about so beautifully is really the same story as mine.
Hmm.
I had alluded to earlier in an earlier response that I was raised in a very Christ-centered church, but that Christ-centeredness didn't always create the space for me to deal with uh, the layers of my Chinese American ancestry
Hmm.
and what was Christ's presence um, within that story,
Hmm.
right? The story of my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents, and they traversed quite a set of circumstances to come to the United States. And I believe, and I'm sure every faithful Christian would affirm that Spirit of Christ was with them,
Hmm.
right? And so, as much as I um, understood a sense of belonging to Christ, I didn't know how Christ was present in my family's history.
Hmm.
We want to understand how Christ's presence is guiding and directing and using all of these different parts of us to to serve and to glorify God.
Hmm.
Right? We can't glorify God fully unless we know how every part of us is fearfully and wonderfully made.
Hmm.
And so our multiple belongings, ultimately, all of those belongings belong to Christ, but we have to dive deep into the particulars of each of those belongings to know what God is doing in our lives and in our communities.